To begin our program first with recitation of Quranic ayat with translation, and I'm going to invite Brother Abdul Wahab to do that. So with our first program, we're going to begin with recitation of our Quran, and Brother Abdul Wahab can do so.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Believers, let not a group of men scoff at another group. It may well be that the latter at whom they scoff are better than they. Nor let a group of women scoff at another group. It may well be that the latter are better than they. And do not taunt one another, nor revile one another by nicknames. It is an evil thing to gain authority for ungodliness after belief. Those who do not repent are indeed the wrongdoers. Believers, avoid being excessively suspicious, for some suspicion is a sin. Do not spy, nor backbite one another. Would any of you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? You would surely detest it. Have fear of Allah. Surely Allah is much prone to accept repentance, is most compassionate. Human beings, we created you all from a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the most God-fearing of you. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware.
Excellent with your voice. I want to begin the program by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to gather at ICN and discuss a very important and touching topic in the month of Ramadan. Also, personal thanks to all of you in the community and all the guests who take time out on Sunday and be here. So I think we all understand the gravity of this issue. So we have great guest speaker. They'll tell us what we need to know, and then we'll take the question and answer session. I think we all recognize place is probably one of the best places to live here. We've all made conscious choice to come here. For obvious reasons, so we can give better future to ourselves, our children. At the same token, we need to be very proactive and part of the society as well. Due to recent rhetoric, which is from recent election and the campaigning, all of the law-abiding citizens, we are very concerned. I can go on and on as to what our concerns are, but of course, it's our safety. It's a freedom to come to a religious place, and a lot of other things. Again, the list goes on and on with this. This phenomenon is not just confined to us. It's all the minorities. So it is not just us versus some. It is all of us. We need to work together, and we are together. Isolation might have worked maybe 5 to 10 years ago. It is not going to work anymore. So if we thought about doing something, this is the time to do it with action. I want to share with everybody about this program. Without concern, this program hopefully will move us forward in a positive manner. That's the purpose of the program. We want to have some guidelines and have positive outcomes to move forward with that. And this is, again, first of the many steps that we're going to have to take. So again, thanks for coming here, and just a few housekeeping rules. Please, cell phone users, turn it off or mute it at this time. And it applies to Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, every single device that we have. Please, just out of respect, turn it off. Keep the noise level down, because to the speakers, it's a hindrance, so we don't want to do that. There is a Q&A session after the end of the program, so we have 4 guest speakers that all come and talk when the turn comes. So if you have questions, you can write them down. And then we also have opportunity to ask questions via mic. So hold up on your questions, and we'll have plenty of time to answer those. We may have difference in opinions in various things, but this discussion is an open forum. I repeat, we're in this together. So let's just come together, and then we can move forward. Without further ado, I'm going to invite our first guest. She's been here for a long time. Most of us know her. Her name is Sadia Grover. She's an attorney. She's also vice chair of DuPage County Democratic Party. She also got Barack Obama Presidential Service Award. And she's working on a very important task these days, is to amending the Illinois hate crime law with the state legislature. On top of all this, she's a mom. In fact, she just had her 3rd baby a few weeks ago, and she still had to come. So we all understand how important this is. So I would like to invite Sister Sadia forward.
Assalamu alaikum. So, elections happen on Tuesday, if you don't know about it. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not sad. I'm not sad about the election results. I'm not upset about the election results. And I'm not even scared. Obviously, I have family members that are Muslim. I'm Muslim. My kids, my mother, my family, who mostly wears a headscarf. They're visibly Muslim. They have beards. But I'm not scared. And I'll tell you why. Because after the results of the elections, I fell asleep, by the way, that night. I just thought we would have Hillary. I mean, it was the obvious choice, and I fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning with my husband telling me this news. So, Allah tells me, and He tells all of us, that there is not a leaf that drops, that falls from a tree, that He's not aware of. There is nothing in this world that happens without His permission, without His will. And when something happens according to His will, whether we like it or not, whether we hate it, because we may not know, and He tells us, it may be good for us, but we hate it. And we may love it, and it's bad for us. But at the end of the day, He is all wise and all knowing. And there is a wisdom and a plan behind things that we don't know of. We don't know. But what we can do is, just like Brother Ali said, we can unite together, work towards solutions, and be realistic and practical in our approach. We are leaders. We always have been leaders. And I think we forget that at times. We forget the golden era of the Muslims that lasted for almost 1,000 years after the Romans. That says a lot about our history. And I think we have forgotten that. So we need to get back and remember our rich history and work with humanity in bringing about positive change. So, I've been getting a lot of incident reports for the past week. My phone was being bombarded by text messages and private messages telling me about all the hate crime incidents that are happening. Muslim women having their hijabs pulled off of them, children being bullied in school, swastikas being drawn on buildings and locker rooms, anti-Semitism is on the rise again, anti-Islamophobia has been increasing, but it's more this past week, and yet these haters have been emboldened. And what these incidents are called, they're called hate crimes. Hate crime is a very specific legal term, and I'm going to explain what a hate crime is. A hate crime is an actual crime that is motivated by feelings of hate and bias. And it could be towards religious groups, it could be towards ethnic groups, it could be towards any of the protected classes. So when an incident occurs, you have to know whether it is a hate crime. And there's a difference between, I'm going to give you an example. Let's take a bar fight, okay? Okay, I know nobody's in the bar. I have so let's say there's a African-American guy and a Muslim guy, okay? Just for example. I'm not targeting, I'm just picking randomly. And we get, okay, let's say there's person A and person B. Person A gets into a fight with person B over a dispute about the choice about the color purple. And they just get into a fight. And he hits person B. Can person B say, oh, well, he hated me because I was white or I was black? No, he can't, because that's not what they were fighting over. They were fighting over the choice of their color. But if person A hit person B because he was Hispanic or he was Muslim, and he said a few things that indicated that, and there was evidence of that, then you could say, okay, yes, this person punched this person in the face because he was motivated by his hatred for him. So that's an important distinction in court, and that's an important distinction amongst law enforcement when they're reporting a hate crime. So when you come across these incidents, and I pray that none of you do, or your children, but it is a possibility. I want you to understand cooperate with the police and let them know that you think it's a hate crime. And there's a special form that's filled out. And on that form, it's indicated that this was a hate crime. Now, a hate crime is not a charge in itself. When it goes to court, the perpetrator, gets charged with the actual crime. So let's say they punched you in the face. They will get charged for battery and assault, whatever the evidence is. But the hate crime is an additional charge to that crime to lengthen the sentence of it. And the purpose is to deter these type of hate-motivated crimes. But the problem that we're running into these days, and this is why I'm working on the current Illinois hate crime law, the problem that we're running into these days is that when it does get, sometimes even law enforcement, and it's not their fault, and it's not the prosecutor's fault, but the law in itself is a little vague. It doesn't really expand upon what motive is and how it's actually defined. So it could be confusing initially to charge it as a hate crime. So let's say it's charged as a hate crime, it goes to court. Now, as a lawyer, I've had hate crimes in front of my desk. I was unable to prove the motive part. That is really difficult to do. And most of them go unprosecuted. It's because of the language of the law. So, my husband and I drafted an amendment to the bill, to the law, a couple of years ago. We're still working on it. It was 2015 actually, last summer. And it's going very well. We're working with state legislators right now. It is being redrafted as we currently discuss this issue. And of course, there's a lot of policymakers behind it. There's a lot of groups that are concerned about the language of the bill. You know, we have a lot of different organizations giving their input in it, and we're trying to go as fast as we can, especially with what's going on these days. So I do want to give you hope that once we amend this hate crime bill, we'll have more accurate statistics. We will be able to prosecute appropriately. Law enforcement will be more clear as to how to go about this. And eventually, over time, this is a lengthy process, long-term goals. We will reduce it. And as long as all of you help me, and we all help each other in positive action, staying united, even against people that hate. When people hate you, you put a smile on your face, and you don't hate them. Because that's what we don't do that. We don't hate back. We love, we understand, we empathize, and we need to be vigilant. We need to protect our children. We need to be in communication with the schools, with teachers, principals, with our own children, with the PTA. We need to be actively involved in combating this together. Again, I don't know why what has happened, but I do know that there is a plan, and there is hope. And I want you all to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that with every hardship comes peace. So I want to leave you with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sadia. So, in the audience, if you have questions regarding what to do, how to handle any hate crime, just write it down, give a mental note, and after the program is done, you can direct those questions to Sister Sadia. Our next speaker is very well known to this community. He's a resident scholar, Sheikh Islam. He's our Imam scholar for Islamic Center in Naperville. He does a lot of things. I am not going to list everything he does, but one of the key roles is he gives direction and inputs to ICN in the outreach program. He's been on media, news, churches, just to tell us who we are. So I'll let him take the mic from here.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. As we know, many people were shocked by the results of the election. But as a Muslim, first and foremost, as a father, as a community leader, we have no option except to be optimistic and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our faith. As Sister Sadia and Allah reward her said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does things for a reason. And He taught us this over and over again in the Quran. Remember the story when Allah told the angels that He's going to create humans. What did the angels say? Why are we going to cause those that are going to cause corruption in the land and spill blood? So how did Allah respond? I know that which you do not know. And we have to always remember that God knows that which we do not know. He's told us there are some things in life that you may want them, but it's not good for you. And there's other things in life that you may not want, but it's good for you. And that comes back to our faith and commitment and trust in God. You know, we live in a great country. And I want to give you an example of how great this country is. You know, as I was mentioning a few days ago in the Friday sermon, is that on that morning, Friday morning, we had people who came to this country from Uzbekistan, India, Pakistan, Middle East, Ghana, African countries. And we all came together from the ages of 10 plus to 70 plus, and we came together in a masjid to worship Allah. We've chosen to make this our homeland, and we came together. No one stopped us. No one asked us, why are you here? No one asked us, what are you doing? But I've lived in Muslim countries where this has happened. Where masajid are closed down. Where people were afraid to come to the masjid. Where people were given scissors at the airport saying, cut your beard or go back to your country. None of this has happened here. And inshallah, we pray to Allah that it will never happen here. But we need to do our part to make sure that that is happening, right? In those countries, you go to the police are the ones pulling down the places. Here, I just want to let everybody know that the chief of the Naperville Police Department proactively reached out to our community and said, I've heard of incidents in other places around the nation. Please let us know if anything's happening. Also, as Sister Sadia mentioned, the schools are aware of what's going on. There's a person on the Board of Education in District 204 who's been coming to Open Mosque Day. He sent us an email. And he said, when I first found out about the election results, the first people that I thought about was your community. And he said, the board is united, that their highest priority is to make sure that every student has a safe learning environment. So make sure that you educate and inform your children about these things as well. Another thing I just want to remind myself and all of you is that whatever's been happening, it's a little difficult to process, right? But we need to be optimistic, and we need to convey that optimism to our children. No matter how old we are, we're able to get through these things and understand it, conceptualize it, and move on. But imagine what 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 13, 18-year-olds are going through. So we need to inspire hope in them as well. From a religious aspect, some things we need to do is we all need to reflect on our spiritual state. We believe we've been sent on this earth to worship Allah. We believe that as Muslims, our success in this world and our hereafter depends on our connection and our relationship with Allah. How are your prayers? How is your relationship with the Quran? Another thing, a reminder to myself and to all of you, is make sure that you're giving your family the rights that they deserve. I've spoken to people who said, for the last 6 months, 4 to 5 hours a day, they've been spending either on social media or on the internet, in front of the TV, following election coverage. And I asked, how much time have you been spending with your children? Right? Think about that for a second. Another thing is, be kind and compassionate to your wife and your family members. As imams, we know, like since the election day till today, and this is throughout the year, it has nothing to do with the election. The biggest issues that we face in our communities are issues between husband and wife. We need to work on these relationships. And this has to extend to all facets of our life. Be kind, compassionate, generous to your neighbors, and people outside of the Muslim community. And inshallah, the other speakers will talk about how we can engage more. But to send cookies, something, a treat to your neighbor. Talk to them, be kind to them, compassionate to them, so we can normalize our relationships. Be optimistic. The Prophet ﷺ was the most optimistic person. Read his seerah. I'll give you one example. There was an incident during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, while he was in Mecca, that his enemies came while he was praying in the state of prostration, and they took the intestines of a camel and they put it on it. Sallallahu His daughter, Fatima, his youngest daughter, came and she removed those intestines. And what did he tell his daughter? He said, Allah will take care of us. And this is what we have to believe in. We do the best that we can. But as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of his Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he will take care of each and every one of us. We need to return to him, and we need to do the best that we can to be positive contributors to society in every aspect of our lives.
Good to hear comforting words from 204 School Board. And inshallah, God will, and with our effort to get more involved, we want to hear that from all the school boards, locally, statewide, nationwide. Inshallah, with our efforts, that's the goal, and we'll get there. So, Jazakallah Khair for letting us know at 204 School Board. Our next speaker, as an MC, I've introduced him, but seriously, Brother Adil, everybody knows Brother Adil. So, he's the ex-president of ICN, and right now a very active board member. So a few things that I can tell you about him is, we talk about leaders who lead by example. That's what I see Brother Ali doing that. If he says something gets done, he's very heavily involved in the community. I hope he spends time at home with his family, because he's here all the time. So we are blessed to have him. ICN has done wonders in his leadership, and he's a big supporter of all the programs. He's also supported by a great group of board members in this community, so we just need to extend the support even more, because this is high time. So with that, I would like Brother Fareed to come on the stage, please.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Atif, for the generous introduction, and I would like to greet all of you in the beautiful Islamic greeting of Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. How is everyone doing this beautiful Sunday afternoon? Thank you very much for taking this time to come here and spend these moments with our community. I would like to thank our community members, and I would like to thank our guests who have taken their precious time to be here with us. It means a lot to us. Let me begin by saying that any time we face a situation, we have a framework to refer to. We have a reference framework. And that reference framework is the time and the life of our prophets, ranging from Prophet Adam, Prophet Noah, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Musa, Isa alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And one particular incident which took place during the time of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, peace be upon him, was a time when the tiny minority of the Muslims were confined in the city of Medina, which was barely within the confines of 3 by 3 miles perhaps. And there was a confederate army, and pagans had gathered various tribes to come and attack, to wipe out. They had the intention to completely wipe out and annihilate the entire Muslim population during that time. And the situation was so tense that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرَ وَتَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ الظُّنُونَ. And remember when they came at you from above and from below, and when eyes shifted, They were not able to focus. Their eyes were shifting because of the stress and fear. And heart reached to your throat. The heart was jumping to the throat. That was the tense situation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing here. And you assume the things we should not have seen about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means his faith itself was shaken. The believers were thinking about this in God. The faith itself was shaken. That was the situation. And we must be thankful that today's situation is not like that. This is the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me ask you a question. With the new reality and with the rhetoric we have been hearing throughout this campaign, are you afraid? Are you scared? You should not be afraid and you should not be scared. Because, again, we have a frame of reference anytime we face a situation. And not only we look at the problem, we also look at the solution. And the solution is, when we pray, when we call to pray, we say Allahu Akbar. When we see something, we say Allahu Akbar, and that simply translates into God is great. So no matter what situation we are facing, we always have somebody who is greater, far greater than that situation. And we believe that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is in control of all of the affairs. And we believe that nothing, absolutely nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the will of God. That is the trust we have put in our Creator. Brothers and sisters, there is absolutely no reason for you to be scared or afraid, because we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's how we should be doing. Are we concerned? Yes, we should be concerned. We cannot assume that things will be as usual, because there is a lot of ignorance around us. There could be people who, out of their ignorance, have been emboldened by this change in situation, and they might take actions which are harmful to our community. And then we have to be cognizant about our surroundings, especially the sisters who are wearing hijab and they go out. Please be aware of the environment around you. Please be more vigilant. Please be more careful. Do not walk into areas where there is nobody around you. Whenever you are walking with your car, make sure you have keep them in your hand. You don't have to be scared or afraid. Likewise, the students, we have to be a bit careful on the campuses. But let me share something. With all of these things, negativity which is taking place around us, there is a great deal of goodness. In fact, I see more goodness than negativity. And I would like to commend many of our supporters, many of the emails, phone messages, text messages have come to us personally, to the ICM website, reassuring us their support. There is a lot of goodness around us, and may God bless all of those good souls. We have to reach out and build more alliances, and we have to thank our dear neighbors who are very much supportive in Naperville and even around the country. I have received a text message from around the country as well. Yet, there is another reason for us to be comfortable. The reason is, we live in a country which is one of the greatest democracies in the world, and we are not a country without laws. We have a great document which we call as the Constitution of the United States of America. No matter what rhetoric an individual occurs during the campaign, when that individual will stand up and will put the hands on the book he believes in and take the oath, he has to take the oath to support the Constitution of the United States of America. And we as the citizens, we will stand behind our elected leaders, no matter who he or she is. We will stand behind him. We may or may not agree with his rhetoric or position or his statement or the approach, but when it comes down to America and American people, we will stand behind our leadership. It is not Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton we care about. It is the America and American people and the human dignity and the constitutional rights we care about. That should be our focus. time that I was supposed to. What can you do as individual, as community, as family, as leaders, as professionals? What can we do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with a purpose, and He mentioned that كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. That you are best as a nation which has been raised for humanity, for mankind. That means that we are created for the service of humanity. We must strive to serve our Creator through the services of His creation. That means at the individual level, at the least what we can do is when we come across our neighbors, our colleagues, our co-workers, or some stranger, what is the commandment? وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, and speak the kind word to the people. That's what we should be doing. If we follow that one simple instruction, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا, and speak the kind and beautiful word to the people, that's what we should be doing. When we have a family, if our kids are attending school, and I would like to urge, especially our sisters, please make sure that you visit your children's school so often. Be engaged in PDAC, in school activities. Do volunteer. Do volunteer. There are many support groups and volunteer opportunities. To the brothers, if you are a professional, make sure that you do the best what you do. You have to do the best. You have to work with your colleagues, be a team player, and try to find the opportunities to help others. Those are the few things we can do. At the national level, please make sure that we are engaged in the civic engagement. When there are situations where policies are being made, which can adversely impact us, please be assured that the Muslim leadership will be engaged in working with our elected officials, whether at the state level or the federal level, our congressmen, our senators at the state level and the federal level. But they will be needing support from you. If there is a survey, if there is anything which is needed from you to respond to that, please make sure that you do participate in those surveys. Please make sure that you help to support the Muslim leadership and the others who are our allies and our partners in peace. We will be reaching out to work with other faith groups, other minorities, and even with the elected officials in the White House. We want to make sure that what we do is the right thing to do, and we want to make sure that the constitutional rights of all the citizens are preserved, upheld, and the country that is run is based on the documents we believe and know as the Constitution of the United States. My brother and sister, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who will bring the positive dialogue to the American people, so that no one will be able to say that Muslim people are deported. In fact, people should be saying that the Muslims are the positive contributors to this country, and we want more Muslims in America. جزاكم الله خيرا واخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
Thanks for touching up some of the few concerns that we have in the community and giving us some short-term solutions to get involved in various organizations. So at the 30th, we need to take an action and get involved. With that, I'm going to invite our keynote speaker, Brother Malik Mujahid. He is, of course, known locally, nationally, internationally. We're blessed to have him here today. He's been with us many times. At times we needed some assistance, guidance. We've had multiple meetings with him. He's been always available for ICN, so we're blessed to have him in the community and for him to, give his time to all of us today. Those who don't know Brother Mujahid, he is founding chairman of Sound Vision Foundation. He's also a producer of daily radio Islam talk show on WCEV in Chicago. He's former chairperson of CIOGC, which is Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago. He has served as the chair of the Council for the Parliament of World Religion, premier interfaith organization in the world. He has authored multiple, more than 400 essays on various topics, including religion, civil rights, and public policy. So again, I would like to invite Brother Mujahid to come take the stage and let us know what we need to do.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you all doing? Alhamdulillah. Oh, the face today? Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest, and everybody else tries their best until they leave this world. And God keep rotating people, keep changing people. That's His style. When we become a little sleepy, He wants us to get up, get your acts together, and that's what's happening. الحمد لله الذي كفى والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد المصطفى وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدقه النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين الحمد لله رب العالمين. The guidance from God which I just recited is very important as a Muslim as well as an American. America is built on individual responsibility. And God, this verse of the Quran says, "O believers, be thoughtful of God, your Creator, and each one of you must think, what are you doing for tomorrow? And be thoughtful of Him." Adopt taqwa. He is fully aware of each and everything which we do. And keep that in mind as I move forward, because we are a community, we are a country, we are a nation, we are a community, but the bottom line is we are an individual. We are responsible for ourselves, we are responsible for our families, we are responsible for our neighborhoods, our country, but we are an individual. What you do, what I do, matters the most for our individual success in this world and in the eyes of God Almighty, who we believe will go back any moment, and He will judge us with all the forgiveness and mercy. But He wants to be fair, wants to see what you have done, and what you have done wrong for which you have not sought forgiveness. So, liberating America from fear, hate, and anger is the goal which has brought it to me, or brought all of us here. And I like us to adopt that. That will require serving humanity and building bridges of understanding. But a little bit about the challenges America is facing. America is facing many challenges, but one of the challenges which is right there in front of our face right now is the demographic challenge. As minorities are heading towards becoming a majority, people are worried to death. That's why President Obama received 400% more death threat than President Bush did. But remember, this is the country which elected Obama. This is the country. An African American whose middle name is Hussein. This is the country which elected. Always remember that. These things change. Cycle comes up and down, but remember the strength of this country. Which country in the world is like that? This is the only country in the world like that. So remember that as we move forward. But because of that, the different people have scaremongering and whatnot. 25 million people purchase guns just in 1 year statistics. it will continue to give rise to hate as well as class conflict. When I look at the two people who are loved the most, Trump on one side and Bernie Sanders on the other side, what is about them? They are talking about issues which are concerned about class. Of course, some of them are talking about other issues. This is not a photo from Nazi Germany. It's from the hot sands of Arizona, in which citizens and green card holders and children included were put in the hot sands of Arizona by a sheriff. Guess what? That sheriff lost this election. He won 4 elections based on that. Finally, people got him, and he lost that election. That dress looks like Nazi Germany. It's right there in Arizona. And these are Latino people who are being rounded up. And then came this guy who says you should be treated no differently than the sex offenders. He said lots of things. And nobody knows what he means, what he doesn't mean. But he keeps saying things. I will take him on his words. I trust God, but I will prepare for a person like that. And you don't prepare yourself alone in sitting in room, hoping and wishing that he will change his mind. Keep your mind open. Keep your mind open for all possibilities. I respect the system and a process which elected him with a lot of ifs and buts. But I will respect him when he will earn my respect. Be a man up. Be a right person. Be a woman who stands on the truth. Don't allow wishy-washy conversation to hide the truth. That's the truth right there. That's the guy who said it. And unless you prepare for it, you will not be able to take advantage of the opportunities which are about to come, and I'll come to that. But while you're talking about it, I'm looking at the social media. Muslims are talking almost close to as though they are racist. Talking about all white people. Generalization. You just simply cannot do that. So I spent some time looking at these statistics. It is said that 58% of the people who voted among whites voted for Trump. That is truth. Accept the truth. But look into the truth a little more deeply. That comes only 33% of the eligible white voters who voted for Trump. That is less than 20% of all American white people. And at the same time, 66% of the white voters who voted did not vote for him, they voted for other candidates and whatnot. So statistics could be again. So the reason I'm emphasizing this point, my brothers and sisters, is that meeting any white person on the street, you should have a common cause of humanity. You should not think of that person as enemy. He is not the enemy. She is not the enemy. Not all white folks who voted for him, voted for Trump, didn't vote because they are racist. The guy who controlled all the electricity of Illinois, he was sitting with me just before the election, just when Hillary Clinton says, what was that, deplorable. He said, I'm deplorable, but I'm adorable. When 9/11 happened, he didn't know what to do. What did he do? He took his car and sat in MCC, in Muslim Community Center, in the first day. He said, I just like to be with Muslims. So don't generalize and be prophetic. Prophet all the people around him, no matter which prophet you take, were not listening to their messages. But they trusted in God that people change their mind. People change their heart. So have a winning attitude. Not the attitude that I am seeing in social media from Muslims, that while they show their solidarity with other minorities, it does not mean that we adopt the attitude which is the un-Islamic attitude, inhuman attitude. They are not the enemy. Even I don't consider him to be enemy. He's a politician and a tool. He didn't invent Islamophobia, he's a product of Islamophobia. He's taking advantage of it. Well, if we had worked a little harder, he would have failed and would not have this conversation. So maybe God wanted all of you to come together on this topic. Otherwise, we're sitting having a fun and doing nothing about it. So, but these are the enemies. These are the enemies. They have $200 million behind them, according to IRS return. These are the people who are sitting and advising. This is the guy who came up with the survey who says all Muslims in America need to be targeted. And that's the type of cabinet which they are thinking of electing. People who are Islamophobes. Our neighbors are not Islamophobes. Our neighbors are just confused. They're confused because Islamophobes have used mainstream media in a very skillful manner. And Muslims did not invest a single penny in using the media in a skillful manner. So they put their money where their mouth is. You putting your money in masjid, so mashallah, you got a new museum. Oh, not museum, what you call it, gymnasium. Well, I'm into museums, so museum came into my mind. So liberating America from fear, hate, and anger must be a goal. This is a goal which I have adopted for myself. This is a prophetic goal, and this is where we need to develop alliances. And for that, we need to get into the theology of Islam and Muslim. God says in the Quran repeatedly that I created all human beings as one people. And God says, accuses human beings that you divided it up. And that's why the verses of the Quran, which young person recited so beautifully and ably translated for us, is very important for us. Ridiculing, laughing at people, drawing cartoon, amen. We need to understand that. We have been subject of it for a while as a Muslim. So we need to understand we should not turn into something which is demonizing us. And the prophetic mission which God has told us in the Quran, that he sent prophet after prophet after prophet, and there was one purpose that is underlined. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. So prophet help people stand up and establish something which God calls qist. Qist is a Quranic term. It has a wide sense of meaning. But God says, I sent prophet after prophet for one purpose, to help people establish this, help people. It was not the job of the Jesus or the Moses or the Muhammad that they do it. Their job was to help people stand up and society itself establishes. And that is the prophetic job. It is translated as peace, justice, equity, fairness, and rights of everybody in the society. That is the test. That is the mission of the prophet. But what did prophet say in the last sermon which he gave? Sister should remember because he has special lines for sisters in the last sermon. He did address men directly.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Okay. She was taking notes, now she woke up. But he said, those of you who are present, فَلْيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدَ الْغَائِبِ. Those of you who are present, the prophetic message, يَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Duty of the prophet to establish fairness and justice and equity in the society. فَلْيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدَ الْغَائِبِ. He transferred his mission as he was leaving the world in the last sermon to humanity. And that's where you and I, who keep saying Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah when we raise our finger in each salat, Ashhadu, 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 that's the witness, inviting humanity for fairness, justice, equity. That is a purpose which falls right at the heart of the mosque, if mosque can understand that. So helping Muslim Ummah is also part of that. Liberating America from fear, hate and anger, fairness, justice and equity, helping Muslim Ummah from a disaster which is going on. Not many Muslims even know that 4 million people have been killed in the last 15 years. 4 million people. People know more about the largest number of refugees since World War II, but people don't know 4 million people have been killed. A person killed, multiply that with the family, say 5% family. How many people are devastated? 7 countries, literally economy and everything is destroyed. Why? Because of this cycle of war and terror and dehumanization. Terrorists cannot kill people until they humanize their neighbors. Warmongers cannot kill until they demonize. and you are number one victim of it, except because you are unable to tell your story, because you have not invested in telling your story in communication. Result is that you are the victim and you are being blamed. Muslims did it, Muslim did it, Muslim did it, every day on TV and radio. So understand that liberating America and is connected with helping the Muslim Ummah. You want to be called yourself American Muslim? Underline American. Make a box around Americans. America will continue to consider you Muslim. Globalization is bringing people together. You just cannot divide people. So God is bringing humanity together. Our job is to humanize the people in America who are being dehumanized. So as a result, we know that 1,008 crimes have taken place in the last 3 days. Mostly against Latinos and then Muslims and African American and other minorities. But we don't know in the last 3 days how many people have been killed because of this cycle of war, terror, and Islamophobia. So this cannot be done. This challenge of liberating America, breaking cycle of war, terror, and hate, this cannot be done easily. It cannot be done just by voting once in a while. I'm very happy that a whole lot of Muslims did a whole lot of work this time. I have never seen them do so much work in election cycle as this time. But not enough, my brothers and sisters. The challenge is tremendous. But you are not the first one who faced challenges. Just about 70 years ago, when Nazi Germany was killing people all around, a ship came to this country. Name of the ship was St. Louis. I don't know why they named St. Louis that ship. It has 908 Jews in there, running away from Nazi Germany. How many of those Jews were allowed to land in America when it came? Zero. Sister says this, 0. People running away from Nazi Germany. And 70% of America at that time sympathized with the people who are running away. But not a single one was allowed to land in this country, and when they were sent back, research says 50% of them were killed by Nazis. What did Jews do to change that? That's a story Muslims need to learn. That's the ship. Happily waiting in 1939 to be allowed to land. Do you know that Anne Frank's father also applied for Anne Frank? Anne Frank and his sister. He wrote in the letter, it's New York Times published that just I think last year, that I will not pay for myself, but I have 2 daughters. And I have all the sponsorship and papers, people are willing to put money in there. Can my daughters at least can come to America? And you know what happened to Anne Frank. So what did they do? And I'd like you to think about that. They mastered the art and technology of communication, invested in media. Today, many Muslims casually say something which must not be said. But I'll repeat to them because I heard them. Oh, Jews control the media. This is the same some of the Trump supporters are saying. So watch out what you see. They are the same people. How they reach to the level that we keep making a stereotypical image of that. Second thing they did, they invested in their empowerment in politics and coalition building. When I was going to school at the University of Chicago, an election came and my first election was Harold Washington election, and I just said, new person here, not even a citizen, and I put up something for him, and a Polish janitor will take it down. So it took me 15 days to find out who's taking down my symbol. But at that time, I saw the Jewish children, not children, university students, they're taking time off to work on campaigns. Is there anybody here in this audience who is a college-going person who doing a quarter off to work on a campaign? I'd like to see a hand. What? Okay, when she was in college, so they invested in political empowerment to turn around the time. And they are also invested in social services and human services. There are many, many things. But many other communities have empowered themselves through this process because of the Palestinian support among Muslims. Muslims continue to think what Jews are doing, so this is what they did for their empowerment. So a path for Muslim empowerment first will come mastering the art and technology of communication. You must be able to tell your story. You can make documentaries. You can do a whole lot of things. Actually, this little computer, every one of you have a computer at home. If I ask raise hand, probably 100% of the hands will go up. This thing and a little cell phone. This computer, this cell phone has more power, more technology to produce anything marvelous than what I had 28 years ago when I established Sound Vision. I spent $100,000 for the equipment, and these two things have more equipment than at that time. So what is stopping you from telling your story? That's the question, remember, as we move forward. Invest in relationships, personal relationship and a coalition building. Stand with those who stand with you. Stand with those who stand with you. And invest in the political empowerment. In America, in Chicago, yesterday I was sitting in MEC when a discussion like that was taking place. I asked the president of CIGC, who was sitting next to me, chair of the CIGC, how many staff do you think full-time people Muslims have in Chicagoland area? All the organizations put together. He said probably 400 or 500 people working full-time for the Muslim community. Now give me a name of one person whose job is full-time to work on political empowerment of the Muslim community. Well, you don't know, but I did hire 2 people and was unable to pay the salary. So I let one person go. Another person cared for you so much that he worked on $1,500 a month for the people. 400 or 500 employees. How much is the budget of your organization? I don't know. But I asked another Muslim achiever whose organization itself has a $10–15 million budget. What do you think is the budget of Muslim organization in Greater Chicagoland area? He said, I think at least $200 million a year. Then I say, is he correct? So I decided to put only 100 million because I was not quite sure. But then when I started counting 100 million, it went beyond 100 million. Now, $100 million a year you spend. How much time do you think Muslim in Chicagoland area is spent on this election cycle, organizing Muslim vote, developing alliances, working with other people, organizing and delivering your votes? My estimate is less than $25,000. Keep that in mind as we move forward. Keep masjid at the center. Muslims have a lot of politicians, so politicians are in one orbit, they are on Mars, and masjid people are on somewhere else. Name a planet which you want to choose. So they are different orbits. We need to bring mosque at the center of this effort. Civil rights movement, which made America better, was led by a preacher of a small church, Dr. King. And it's all based in the churches, and so the mosque cannot isolate themselves. People are saying, a lot of people who voted for Trump are evangelical voter. Evangelical voter, where they come from? They come from evangelical churches. And they organize, they invest money in these areas. So a success story when Muslims get their act together. Rape has never been a war crime in human history. Never was written in international law as a war crime. Muslims in Chicago did that. How they did that? They put their money where their mouth is, and they developed coalition. And this is the story. So mosques came together, that war crime when Bosnia was happening, they asked Sound Vision, which I am president of, honored to be president of. We developed a Bosnia task force. We aligned with National Organization of Women, which in those days used to be more left to the center than they are now. Very feminist group. So the first fight we had for a rally was, they say that thing, no Muslim woman can have that thing on her hand while speaking. So what do we do now? Aisha, what was her name? I forgot the name of the sister who was working with us. mashallah, beautiful sister, pastor, and Allah give her Jannah. So I said, what should I do? I said, well, let's have a dialogue. So dialogue resulted that we agreeing that we will not question what they are dressed when they are speaking, and they will not question what Muslim women are dressed when they are speaking. So we developed, they put $50,000, we developed a task force, National Organization of Women We Alike, we went to Congress and the White House, and first time in human history, rape was declared a war crime. So I'm giving an example of a success story that if you have a priority and if you have a goal in mind, for example, your empowerment or liberating America from fear, hate, and anger, or breaking the cycle of war and terrorism and even denomination, you will have to think if that is a priority, then how you divide your money. Otherwise, you will not be able to achieve. So here I come to the conclusion part of it. Translate anger into energy. A lot of America is anger. You need to translate that into energy. A lot of people are saying, well, we need to respect the president. Well, go on respecting, but if you translate respect and going back home and sleeping, you're not respecting yourself. You don't even deserve to respect the elected president. I don't respect him. I accept him. I accept him because I respect the process. I respect him when I see that whatever he was saying, he was lying. And he wants to do, he has completely changed of heart. I mean, good luck with that. I invite you to think. We need to engage ourselves in a thinking process. This is good to come together soon, but thinking process is very important. America has a system and a process of check and balance, as Brother Adil said. But don't wait on that system to kick in. That's not what we are expecting. Go for the second point, that system works best when you are out there organizing and challenging and questioning and calling and reading, and all of that need to be part of it. That need to become part of the plan. Things are in flux. That gives us hope. Republican Party is in flux. They have at least 3 major groups in there. Democratic Party, wow, it is a real influence. And then this is the opportunity, all the third party people, show your guts, organize, make it a viable option. Maybe you will be able to change this country from a two-party system to 3-party system. But this system is in flux. It is being questioned and it is being challenged. And that provides a whole lot of energy and opportunity only if you spend your time and money working on it. And elections continue to happen. Election is coming up in April, right? Is it April in Naperville also? Mm-hmm. Election is just coming up. And then there will be 2018. All the people who got elected in House, most of them will be at risk of losing based on the Twitter guy does. Well, he says he's not going to use much Twitter now. So think that these things will continue to happen. But one of the things we need to pay attention is kids and young people. One group which overwhelmingly, whether they're white kids or the black kids or the Latino kids, is the age group which is around 20, voted overwhelmingly against Trump. These people do one thing, they grow up. And one of the things they do is they watch you. They watch you. The best letter I ever got in my 36 years in America was sent by some Secretary of State when my first son became eligible driving. And he says, you know, he's going to watch how you drive. As simple as that. And I have to behave. So what are you doing? Are you part of freedom struggle? Are you part of liberating America from fear, hate, and anger? If you are part of it, they will be part of it. And when they will start thinking, they will outsmart you. Because they know better Twitter than Trump does. They know how to deal with him. They know his vocabulary. They can beat him in his vocabulary. They got hip-hop and whatnot, you know. So thinking process is extremely important. And then run family in a shura process. Did you print some of those printouts which I sent you? Okay, so I had, Sam Vision team has been working in last several days. We have developed whole lot of articles. How many of you are on South Vision email list? Could you raise your hands? Also, we got 20, 30 people, so you can forward it around. Other people can just give your email address so we can add. All of these things which I am saying, we have developed articles and tips on how to work on those things. So it is important to do shura in the family and must have every day dinner table. And dinner table, you're not talking, you're listening. Don't gain weight while you're listening, but listen. When you listen to children, they listen to you. That's as simple as that. God says in the Quran, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرُكُمْ. You remember me, I'll remember you. He wants to have a deal with you. So have a deal with children, listen to them. Teach leadership skills. Muslim Student Association is worth your investment and time, because they are the one who will be able to. So I like all mosques in Chicago to adopt campuses around them. Ask them what do you need? You need money, you need people, you need to fund a speaker, you need to fund some books, you need to, what do you need? You need to think and help them and plan on that. And be truthful. Be truthful. Don't be lying that you are not scared. I'm scared for this country. Hell, I am. I am not here for money. I have more money in my country, Pakistan. I have a better car in Pakistan. I have a better house in Pakistan. And there are literally hundreds and thousands of people who respond to my call. Here I give a call, I most of the time get 5, 10 people marching with me in Chicago. I chose this country because of its constitution. Because this country stands for freedom and liberty, which is worth fighting for. And my brothers and sisters, you will not fight unless you are truthful. You need to say what is wrong with this person. You need to continue to challenge that person. You will not win. Why America loves Muhammad Ali? Because he was truthful. People were unable to understand him at one time, but gradually they understood. Malcolm X, we now have stems about it and movies about him, but at that time, people were not listening to him because he was pointing out to the challenges. But America, when it is challenges, move forward. Civil rights movement brought America forward to the level that just in few days there is going to be deadline for immigration lottery. What is immigration lottery? Civil rights movement, Dr. King challenged that why our immigration policies are racist policies, it favors whites over other races. For that reason, our Congress changed our laws and there is a lottery to bring those people in who were denied in the past. This country continuously moves forward, but it moves forward because there are people who will speak the truth. Dr. King was murdered exactly 1 year after his speech at Riverside Church in New York. What's the Riverside speech in New York? That is speech connected oppressed people, struggling people in America with the oppressed and people struggling in Vietnam. Exactly the day that he delivered that speech, he was murdered. There is a cost to speaking the truth, but you will not be a good American, and you definitely will not be a good Muslim if you don't speak the whole truth with wisdom, with proper words, with good settings, with all the biryani and the hummus before and after and baklava, poesy of baklava. So develop, this is the last 3 slides. All this speech is useless. It will go nowhere. Unless it's translated into something which I said in the beginning, God says, oh believers, be thoughtful of God. Each one of you must consider, must ponder upon, must wonder, what are you doing for the coming day? For our future, a bright future, inshallah, when we take this country forward, not backward when it comes to human relations. There's no country in the world which has as much diversity as our country. And which group has the most diversity? These are Muslims. So Muslim must be in the leadership of liberating this country from fear, hate and anger, but you will not be able to do unless you translate these goals and these ideas into a personal plan. And that's why I need a reset button. Why do you need a reset button? Muslims are able to do what they set their mind to. There were 1,500 mosques after 9/11. Somebody decided building a mosque is going to be a good thing to do. Now we have double the mosque. We have 3,000 mosques. But have Muslim power doubled? Actually, it went down substantially. Similarly, Muslim decided we will build Muslim schools. We increased our school from 9/11 5 times, 500% more schools. We decided a lot of disaster, give money to disaster. Muslims are giving money for disaster, so relief organizations are growing. So mosques you're giving, mosques are growing. You're giving to schools, schools are giving. You're giving money to relief organizations are growing. You want to liberate America? You cannot do that unless you empower yourself. And this is the way I like your time, and this is the absolutely last slide I have. This is the way I want you to divide your time and money. I really mean it. I beg for it, and I will pray for it, that you will not be able to achieve new goals unless you see your time and money is going where it needs to go. Of course, this will require you to continue to give to masjid. It will require you to continue to give to disaster and refugees and all of that. But at this moment, 95% of Muslim money is going to these two areas, masjid and disaster relief. So if you have 400 employees, 500 employees of Muslim, 500 people working full-time for Muslims, where are they working? They are working in these areas, masjid and school and disaster relief. 95% of the money, 100% of the employees. I like it to be divided to building a movement for broader society to liberate this country from fear, hate, and anger. On the 20% investment on the perception of the Muslim, that's media and relationship and whatnot, and political empowerment. My brothers and sisters, I hope I'm not hard on you, but I'm very honest with you. That's how I feel. That's how my life is. That's how my life is. I'd like you to join me in liberating this country from fear, hate, and anger, breaking the cycle of war, terror, and hate. That's how America will move forward. We are an asset for America. We know streets of the world. We know languages of the world. America competes with the rest of the world in investment, in market share, as well as natural resources. We will not be able to compete with the rest of the world following the recipes what Trump is offering. So it's your job now. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah for the great inspirational talk. Just a few announcements at this time. When I think about as to what Brother Mujahid said, the biggest hope that he said was it's not too late. I know how all of us feel at this point in time, that it's hopeless, it's done, pack our bags. Let's just not have that attitude. We've heard great speakers, and we have to be hopeful that given examples from the Quranic ayat as a historical points that we've seen, nations, they fall, they rise, this is the cycle. But we have to help to rise. So that's, hopefully what we'll do. The next session of the program is going to be Q&A, but in the meantime, we have donuts and some tea at the back, so please feel free, get up, take a walk, grab a donut and some tea. In the meantime, I request Brother Abdi and Brother Farhan, they are going to take over from here to run the Q&A sessions, and Brother Abdi will...
Sister Yasmin.
And Brother Abdi will, tell you the guidelines for Q&A and stuff. With that, I have one more announcement. We have one more guest. Her name is Dr. Yasmin Khan. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and with sub-specialization in cross-cultural psychology. I can guarantee if she wasn't busy before, I could imagine how her life has been after the election. As a father of 2 daughters, while she takes a job, a lot of thoughts came to my mind personally, which I don't think any different than most of fathers, brothers, and sons. They're thinking about, sisters at home. So she's a great asset. She's been in the ICN board. So I'm going to invite her to join the panel for the Q&A sessions. Any question that you have, again, if you have not given him the question on the card, you're more than welcome to feel free to speak on the mic. but just take a break, energize, and then we'll start the program. So, Sister Yasmin Khan, please come join the podium.
Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, Asr is at 3:15. So what we're going to do is, inshallah, we're going to take a break at around 3:10 so that we can pray Asr and then come back and continue the question and answer session, inshallah. The salah time will be at 3:15 though, inshallah. Jazakallah.
This is worthless. I'm going home.